Yalla, you ready for this?
Before we start, this is a recommendation, not a review. If you want a comprehensive review of the game, I recommend you to watch other videos, as this is just a recommendation video. I already love this game and I would recommend it to anyone, and I'll mostly be going over positive aspects that I like. So at its core, Underdogs is a VR roguelike mech action fighting game. But what does that actually look like in practice? So as you can probably tell by now, what makes this game really, really special is its physics-based combat sandbox. The fact that you're able to pick up two idiots and bash them together for a double kill is just plain awesome. And this is what makes the core of the game feel so rewarding. You can throw enemies onto other enemies or just grab them and rip them apart. You can even grab onto one of them with your left arm and then saw right through them with your right arm and then use their dead body as a projectile to deal extra damage to bosses. So yeah, the possibilities are pretty much endless. And it's pretty much up to you to get creative in difficult combat scenarios. It sounds simple on the surface, but the sandbox actually gives way to a lot of creativity and a lot of cool ways to take down your enemies. But let's take it from the top with art style and setting. This is actually what probably made me pull the trigger on buying this game in the first place. Like, the illustrations are really cool and they have this stylized look to them with like a lot of different shapes and colors, and all of the characters look distinct. Like, all characters have their own kind of silhouette, and it's the same with the 3D assets. They also have this cool and stylized look to them, which I really, really like. I actually like this art direction more than a more realistic art style, because being able to tell by silhouette what enemy does what is very, very helpful, especially in a crammed arena with a lot of things going on. So the art style doesn't only look good, but it also serves a function as well. The sound design is also really, really good.
Give me my name tag, boy.
And yeah, small touches like that really go a long way in this game. There's tons of little sounds and visual effects and everything that kind of juice up the gameplay, and it's just very satisfying to play. Just like the 3D assets and the drawings, the sound design also serves a distinct function though, because like I mentioned, the arenas are really, really small, so sounds of gates opening or enemies charging their jump are really, really helpful with dodging or countering their attacks, especially because the arenas can get pretty dark as well, so you can't see a lot. The voice acting is also really solid. I honestly wish there was more of it. The character King, who is mostly going to be speaking throughout your run, sounds really, really cool, so I wish there was more voice acting. So yeah, let's get into the beefy part though, the gameplay. The underlying gameplay structure is pretty simple. You move from one arena to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, until you fight a boss. In between those arenas, though, are short D&D-like sections where you're gonna make difficult and crucial decisions, like either repairing your mech or rigging the next fight for better odds at winning. You'll also have to manage your reputations with different sponsors who will give you benefits, money, and goodies after each fight. And yeah, I'm actually really glad that there are those D&D-like segments in between the fights, as my arms get really, really tired after moving my mech and whacking pit bots' heads off. And yes, you've heard me right, you move with your arms instead of your left joystick. So please make sure to take breaks because you're gonna move around a lot, especially your upper body and both of your arms. So yeah, the gameplay itself seems simple on the surface, but there's also these roguelike elements that spice up every run and make it worth coming back and playing again. So since you're sitting in a mech, you can actually modify yourself. So to start off, there's different types of hands. like a wrecking ball, a sword, a grabbing arm, or a saw. You can upgrade and modify these to increase damage or inflict status effects on enemies. There's also some upgrades that come with trade-offs, so you take 50% less damage if your arm, for example, is under 50% of health. Some examples for upgrades for hands would be a grappling hook hand, and the upgrade that grabbed enemies will receive a little bit of shock damage. This is also a status effect that deals damage over time. So in one situation, my left arm was gone, and I was fighting for my life with a lot of enemies in the arena, because later on there's gonna be harder and harder enemies. So in this arena, an enemy that I can't get close to, or they'll just saw right into my cockpit. So what I did, because I had my grappling arm left, I grappled to them from afar, dealing small amounts of shock damage over time because I had the attribute that grabbing enemies does shock damage. So there's lots of ways to get creative, even if you lose your main arm. There's also other weapons, like for example, there's a hand that lets you pick up enemies right in front of you. And if you bought a specific upgrade in one of the stores in the D&D segments earlier, you can actually just shake them to deal heat damage over time. So you're sitting there literally picking up an enemy, shaking it, and with the other arm zooming around the arena, just dealing heat damage over time. So yeah, there's a lot of options. It's definitely worth just hopping back in even after you lost, because there's just so many options and so much fun stuff that you can try. The game length itself is actually pretty short. There's only 3 acts with 3 bosses. And I would say the bosses give a moderate challenge to the player. I don't think they're the hardest, because they have very generous attack windows where you can just kind of just beat the shit out of them. So I usually find the normal fights with a lot of enemies and bombs and obstacles way more challenging, because you gotta be more aware of your surroundings. So yeah, what are you doing? Just buy Underdogs, please. And yeah, that's pretty much my Underdogs recommendation. I hope I convinced you to buy this game, because I'm a really, really big fan. It's also useful to note that they're still actively developing it. There's actually a roadmap in-game that you can look at. There's a lot of new cool updates. They're actually working on adding a multiplayer in the future, but it seems like it'll still take a long while. But yeah, I don't think you can do anything wrong with buying this game, because even if you don't like it, you can either refund it if you played under 2 hours on Steam. And honestly, if you bought it and didn't like it and you're above 2 hours, you know, you can just give it a shot again. But spending $20 doesn't sound that bad anymore, does it? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Tell me what you think down in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, as only 90% of you are actually subscribed. So if you like my stuff and like what I do, please hit that subscribe button, and yeah, I'll see you another time. Bye bye.